Welcome back to Digital Wandering. And today I wanted just to address the few people out there that may be asking this question whether they should use Ubuntu Touch or Windows Phone. Now, this applies to someone who, for whatever reason, they aren't interested in using iOS or any flavor of Android, whether it's stock version or full version of Android or one of those like de-Googled Android versions. If you are pushing towards either Windows Phone or Ubuntu Touch in 2021, this is the video for you. Now, if you've watched my videos, I use everything, so I don't really make this choice. I decide, or I decide that I want to use iOS, Android, Ubuntu Touch, and Windows Phone. Most people are not going to make that choice. So I just wanted to talk to the few people out there who may be interested in some of the further afield OSs for mobile phones and are looking at Ubuntu Touch and Windows Phone, which one they should pick. Now, there's one good reason why to choose Ubuntu Touch. Now, the Ubuntu Touch phone I have here is the one I've shown multiple times. This is my Nexus 5 running the latest version of Ubuntu Touch. And one reason to choose Ubuntu Touch is that it's still under support. It still receives updates, which doesn't apply to Windows Phone. So if updates is really of importance to you, my Windows Phone device here, it doesn't receive any updates. It doesn't receive any OS updates, and it doesn't receive any updates through its App Store. So that's a major reason why you may want to choose Ubuntu Touch for your needs if you are narrowing it down to these two operating systems. The Windows Phone that I have here is running Windows 10 Mobile or Windows Phone 10, and this is a Lumia 930, my favorite phone of all time. But I don't really want to be too fixated on the device itself. I'm really talking about Ubuntu Touch or Windows Phone. That's really what we're talking about here. So you can look at a lot of these things and apply it to whatever device that you decide to use on those operating systems. One thing that Windows Phone has going for it over Ubuntu Touch is that this was developed by Microsoft and all the billions of dollars in development that it put into Windows Phone while it was still supported. And so it is much more polished. I mean, Windows Phone, as far as using it, it holds up well, especially iOS and Android of the time. It was holding its own as far as it being a professional, polished operating system. So Windows Phone, as far as utilizing it and things that you find in the settings, there are going to be things there that you just don't have in Ubuntu Touch. So for that reason, a lot of people may feel more comfortable or it feel like it's more smooth than Ubuntu Touch, just as though it's more polished, and it just because of who developed it. It's just a much smoother experience than Ubuntu Touch is. So that's a major plus for Windows Phone. When you talk about security, now the fact that Windows Phone is older and unsupported, that's really bad when it comes to security to use any type of computing device that's not supported any longer. But Windows Phone still has a few things when it comes to security that is better than Ubuntu Touch. One thing, this Windows Phone 10, it does support encryption. So your device is encrypted, where Ubuntu Touch doesn't support encryption. So you have an unencrypted device. Another thing that's good about Windows Phone is that it still supports remote wiping. So if you have this phone, this operating system connected to your Microsoft account, on the internet, you can access the device and remote wipe it in case it is lost or stolen. So in the case of the device being misplaced or stolen, I will feel more comfortable with my Windows Phone. You would hate to have any of your phones stolen, but at least I know that there's a great chance that whoever stole it won't be able to access the information on the phone. I mean, all of us have private things, whether our contacts or photos or anything that is information that is for us and not just for anyone to have. Um, I feel more confident because of the encryption and the ability to remotely wipe the device with my Windows phone if I was using it out and about than my Ubuntu Touch phone, which doesn't have those features. One thing also for Windows Phone is official apps. Now, official apps was a problem, or apps in general was a problem with Windows Phone, but as compared to Ubuntu Touch, it's like night and day. So, for example, you have Spotify here. You have things like Pandora. So, although these apps and Netflix, so although these apps are not supported any longer, they still function on this platform. And that's something that you just don't have. You don't have official apps on Ubuntu Touch. You have unofficial apps, but most of the services that I've spoke on so far, if they do have an unofficial version that's available for Ubuntu Touch, they're not as full featured as an official version. So Ubuntu Touch, the app situation will be a problem for a lot of users because if you are, and I think this is just true of many users on smartphones, you want to have as many apps as possible. And although the app situation on Windows Phone is not good, it wasn't good even when it was supported, and it's not good now. In some ways, it can be. You can say that it's better as of right now for than Ubuntu Touch. So the ability to have official apps and also the Microsoft apps, most of them still work. So the official apps for Microsoft. So it's going to integrate more with most people, I guess, use Windows for their computing needs on the desktop. It's going to integrate more with what you have on the desktop on your Windows computer. Even though it's unsupported, it's still most of the Microsoft apps will still sync over the cloud right now. So you still have that advantage. So apps is a major advantage. One advantage that Ubuntu Touch has, though, is newer hardware. So the thing about Windows Phone is like the last Windows phones I think came out in like 2016. Although the phone I have here on Ubuntu Touch is from 2013, so this is a really old phone. Ancient as far as smartphones go. You can get Ubuntu Touch on some newer Android releases. You can, like for example, something like the Pixel 3a, which came out in 2019. You have a number of 2018 phones, I think like the OnePlus 6. Also some Xiaomi phones from around that time, like 2018, that you can put Ubuntu Touch on. There's also new phones, a few new phones that are released. One, I guess the most prominent one I can think of right now would be the Volla Phone. That you can actually request to have Ubuntu Touch pre-installed. So that's a brand new phone. So newer hardware is definitely something that Ubuntu Touch has over Windows Phone. So you can get phones that are 2 to 3 years or more. I think the Volla Phone, I'm not sure what their official release date, either 2020 or 2021. It's one or the other. So that's a huge difference when you're talking about smartphones. 1 or 2 or 3 or more years makes a huge difference. So that's one advantage that you definitely have with Ubuntu Touch. Web browsing is another advantage for Ubuntu Touch. Because the Edge browser on this phone hasn't been updated for so long, it still holds up pretty well on the current internet, but it's definitely having issues on certain websites that it would have been able to handle when it was a supported browser. It hasn't been supported. It depends on what version of Windows 10 mobile that you have, but for some people it hasn't been updated for 2-3 years. So it's really definitely showing his age on some sites. The Morph browser here on Ubuntu Touch. It's not necessarily perfect, but it definitely handles the internet better than Edge. So when it comes to web browsing, and since it's still under development, there's going to be room for improvements. That's a major detriment to Windows Phone is that you can really only look at what it's doing for the present. It's a phone of the present right now. It's not a phone of the future. The things that it's able to do is just going to be degraded over time. Even some of the official apps that are still working, like Pandora, Spotify, Netflix, they're working right now. But since these apps haven't been updated for some time, they could stop working at any point. They could stop working later today, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, or a year or two from now. You just don't know when you're using an unsupported device. So the fact that this browser is still supported is a major advantage that it has over Windows Phone. Well, I think that's about it that I can think of off the top of my head. Probably some other things, especially if you look at individual devices, if you want to compare individual devices, device on Windows Phone and device on Ubuntu Touch, the list can go on and on. But those are some of the basic things. But I'd just like to know what you think or if you have some other things that you'd like to add. But I want to thank you very much for watching. This is Digital Wandering signing off.